So, what separates book concepts that get ignored by publishers from ones that spark massive bidding wars? Yes, the author's platform is important, the writing style is important, but I'm going to talk about something even more fundamental that most authors overlook. The truth is that most people who are applying for a book deal have a good platform. They've written a solid proposal. If it's going to stand out to a publisher, there has to be something else going on. One of the biggest problems I see is a failure to recognize the difference between information and insight. This distinction can make or break your chances of landing a coveted book deal. Imagine an author pitches a publisher on an idea for a book about the history of the American education system. They've done extensive research, collected all these facts and figures, mapped out every important development from the colonial era to the present day. Sounds pretty comprehensive, right? Here's the problem. In the eyes of a publisher, this is probably going to look like just an information dump. Yes, it might be very well organized and meticulously researched, but this idea lacks one thing that really sets a book concept apart: fresh insight. In today's world, information is cheap. It's everywhere. You can find any information you want with a tap of your finger. What publishers and readers are looking for, what they really crave in a book concept, is insight, a fresh perspective, a unique way of looking at something that's going to change the way the reader thinks. We want to experience a eureka moment that fundamentally changes the way we see and understand a topic. So, this failure to understand the difference between information and insight is a trap that captures a lot of aspiring authors, but it's not the only thing that can doom a book proposal to the reject pile. Another common pitfall has to do with how ideas are framed and positioned. Picture an author who's passionate about environmental sustainability. They've come up with a book idea about a 10-step plan to reduce our individual carbon footprints. The steps are well researched, well organized, and carefully explained. But when they pitch this idea to agents, they keep getting the same response. The agents aren't saying that the information is wrong or that the writing is bad. They're saying that the concept lacks a compelling hook, a reason for readers to care and to take action. This is a mistake I see all the time. Authors who are so passionate about their subject that they assume the importance of it must be self-evident to everybody. They dive straight into the information and the details without taking the time to first answer the question, so what? Why should I care about this? An insight driven book idea doesn't just deliver information, it connects that information to the reader's life in a way that makes it feel urgent, important, and fascinating. It makes a clear and compelling case for why this information matters now and why engaging with it will benefit your life. So, we've seen how both a lack of insight and a failure to answer the so what question can derail a book proposal. Now, we're going to look at one more piece to the puzzle, which is about how our brains process and retain information. Imagine you're a busy publisher sifting through an endless pile of book proposals. As you read each one, you're not just evaluating the author's platform and the strength of the writing, you're also subconsciously asking yourself, is this idea important enough to take up my valuable mental real estate and the real estate of the readers? Here's the thing. Our brains are hardwired to latch onto information that feels novel, surprising, relevant, and emotionally salient. We remember information best when it's wrapped in a compelling narrative, a provocative question, a vivid image, or analogy. But when an idea feels familiar or derivative or emotionally flat, our brains are much more likely to let it slip away. It's like trying to build a sandcastle too close to the tide. No matter how much energy you put into shaping it, it's going to get washed away by all the waves of other things competing for our attention. This is why truly insight driven book concepts are so valuable. They're not just delivering new information, they're packaging that information in a way that cuts through the noise, grabs readers by the lapels, lodges itself in their memory. They are staking a claim on precious mental real estate, and that is a hard thing to do. So, how can you craft a book concept that answers the so what question, delivers genuine insight, and claims real estate in your reader's mind? It's all about understanding and applying the principles of what I call an insight-driven book concept. At the heart of every truly compelling book concept is what I call an aha moment. It's a fundamental insight that forever changes the way the reader understands and thinks about the world. The aha moment might be a counterintuitive finding, like the idea that vulnerability can be a strength rather than a weakness. Or it could be a mental model that helps the reader make sense of a complex topic, like the jobs to be done framework. Or it could be a more profound and existential question, like asking, what does it mean to live a good life? The key is that this insight can't just be new information. It must be emotionally and intellectually engaging enough to create a shift in consciousness. It must spark that feeling of sudden clarity, that sensation of the pieces finally snapping into place that makes the reader say, wow, I never thought of it that way before. Identifying and articulating your book's aha moment is the first key to creating an insight driven book concept. But for that insight to truly land and stick, it needs to be rooted in a deep understanding of the reader and how they see the world. One of the biggest mistakes I see aspiring authors make is they assume that their passion for a subject will translate into broad reader interest. They dive headfirst into explaining their topic without first asking themselves, who is this book really for and why do they care about this topic? On the other hand, the most compelling book concepts are grounded in a deep understanding of the reader's needs, fears, desires, aspirations. They tap into conversations that are already taking place in the reader's mind, and they offer a fresh and relevant perspective that feels like it was made just for them. Developing this kind of deep understanding of your readers requires more than just demographic data or surveys. It means immersing yourself in their world, really listening to them and understanding what drives them. When you get to that point, you're no longer just delivering information, you're creating an emotional connection with the ideas that will make your book unforgettable. So, anchoring your book in insight and in empathy are two very important ideas. But to really make your book stand out, you have to understand the power of framing. Imagine two book concepts that both offer essentially the same core truth, that small daily habits are the key to achieving your goals. One book is framed like a straightforward guide, 10 daily habits for success. The other is framed as a provocative challenge. Forget big wins. Why tiny choices determine your destiny. Which one are you going to pick up and read? If you're like most people, the second concept feels so much more engaging and compelling. It takes a familiar idea and helps us see it through a new light, which is going to pique our curiosity and grab our attention. Psychologists refer to this as a framing effect. It's the idea that the way a concept is presented can dramatically influence the way we perceive the information. This is a critical factor in crafting book concepts that cut through the noise and demand to be noticed. Effective framing might mean highlighting an unexpected angle or a contrarian viewpoint, like framing meditation as a tool for greater productivity rather than just something to reduce stress. It might mean tapping into powerful emotions or identity aspirations, like framing a fitness book as a hero's journey for your inner warrior. Or it might mean using vivid, concrete language and imagery to make abstract ideas come to life for the reader, like describing depression as a black dog that follows you around everywhere. The point is, how you frame your book concept is just as important as the actual insight at its core. By wrapping your idea in packaging that's provocative, evocative, and impossible to ignore, you exponentially increase your chances of capturing a publisher's attention and a reader's imagination. So, if you've been struggling to gain traction with your book concept, don't despair. Take a step back, put yourself in the reader's shoes, and start looking for that game changing insight that will make your idea not just good, but truly unforgettable.